In this video, I'm going to go over some of the basics of Active Directories, ways to enumerate, poke around, see what we can do, different tools that we can use to accomplish that, and ways of exploiting Active Directory and sort of weak configurations within it. So on my network, I've set up a domain controller, so we can just take a look at that. We'll just do a quick Nmap scan of 192.168.1.52. and verbose, so we can see the ports as they come in. And straight off the bat we can see Samba, oh, we got it finished already, so we see DNS, we see Kerberoast, we see LDAP, some more LDAP stuff, we see SMB. All of these things, if you find this in a hacked box or a CTF, it most likely means you're dealing with a Windows domain controller account. So far, we don't know any users on the box, we don't know anything about this, so the first thing that you should do is take a look, see if there's any shares that we can access or do anything like that. So start off with using CrackMapExec for that, so CrackMapExec, SMB, and then our IP address of 192.168.1.52. And we'll try with a null authentication, because we obviously don't have any credentials yet, so just like this, and we'll see what we get. So we see we are authenticated, so we can try list the shares with -shares, and we get access denied. That's a funny thing with CrackMapExec. Even though guest authentication is allowed, if this user parameter is empty, it doesn't work for some reason. So if we just put some junk data in here, and then try again, we see we now can read the shares. These are all default shares, and this setup one looks interesting because that's something new. So let's try connect to that with SMB client, and that's anonymous authentication, and we need a share of 192.168.1.52, and the share of setup. So let's connect, let's ls, and we see a to-do.txt. So let's get that and we'll read it in just a second. So exit, and let's cut that out. And we see it's a to-do list, create John Smith, create Ann Summers, Jane Winters, and remember the default password is home default 1. So that's interesting, we've got some potential usernames, and we've got a potential password as well. We just have usernames, we don't actually have usernames, if that makes sense. We just have the names of the users, not actual potential usernames. So what we can do is use a tool called username anarchy, which will take in usernames and produce us different results. I'll just show you quickly how to do that. So we'll make a new file called names.txt, and we'll type in those users just go. So that was John Smith, and was it Ann Summers, and Jane Winters. That, just save that, and we cd into username anarchy, and this is just something you can download off GitHub, very simple, default looks like this, has the executable right here, has some test names, very easy to download. So if we just run it quickly, username anarchy, you need to do the -i flag for an input, and we'll give it our names.txt. And you see over here, it converts it all into possible username combinations. So this is j.smith, John with just the S from Smith, all different possibles, John.smith, and it does that for all the users. So let's take that and pipe it out to a file. So we'll call this potential.txt. So make sure we have it over here, and we see potential.txt. So now we want to verify if any of these are actual users on the box. So we can use Kerbrute to do that. And we have a function called user_enum, like this, and check the options because it is quite hard to memorize everything. Okay, so we need the DC flag. So DC, that's our domain controller IP address, so 192.168.1.52. -d for the domain, so that's home.local. I know that, but you can also just, if we go back to our share over here, it tells us home.local. That's how you get that information. And then what else does it want? It wants our list, so potential.txt. We've done something wrong. Oh, this is wants 2 dashes before, and we got some valid usernames. So we got jsmith, a.summers, and j.winters. We can see they're using this for a format, first letter, and dot, and then the last name. So it's pretty simple. So let's just add these to a file. So if we do, what should we call it? We should call it users.text. That makes sense. So we have j.smith, we have a.summers, and we have j.winters, like that. And if you remember from before, if we just cut out our to-do again, we have a password. So let's try do some spraying. So if we just copy that password, go back to our Kerbrute command, we can change this over to pass spray. So it's called spray, like this, and change this file from potential to users, and then paste in our password that we want to spray with. So that's home default 1, and we get a credential, which is lovely. So let's just check out that user. Let's go back to our, and we can just verify quickly that this is actually a user. So home default, paste that in, space at the end. What have I done wrong? The exclamation point is messing it up. So sometimes with this, we need to do single quotes, not double quotes. Makes a difference for some reason, I'm not sure why. And we get logon status failure. So let's try with the full domain name, so home.local. Okay, we got a authentication, but she can't read the shares for some reason. But that's fine. So we know that it is definitely a user credential, and we have the password that works. What we can do next is we can try and do a Kerberoasting attack, which will basically list any service accounts that are running and just dump the Kerberoastable passwords. So let's do that quickly. There's an Impacket script for this called GetUserSPNs, like that. We can just check the options quickly. All these tools have different ways of inputting domain information. So this one wants, over here we've got domain/username and then colon password. Home.local slash a.summers and then colon password to paste that password in. And what else does it want? It wants PCIP. So let's put IP of 192.168.1.52. Try like this. And we see there is one service account called MSSQL under the SQL users who's a member of administrators. So that's very interesting. If we are able to crack this user's password, we'll be able to shell on the box and command execution and stuff. So let's try to do that with the request flag. This will give us a hash. So with this hash now, this is crackable. So what we can do is we can go to over here, where I just have Hashcat installed. You can make a file called hash and just paste that in. And we can do hash, and it's going to automatically identify what hash we have, so we don't have to worry about that. And put the rock.u.txt thing, and in just a second, this should crack. So let's just be patient. Let's see. We could actually speed it up if we do the -o flag. That is for optimizations. Yeah, it worked. We got the password of password1. Okay, so we now have the SQL user with password1. So let's try and get our CrackMapExec command. If we go here, it's SQL user with password1. And then we see we have read-write to everything, which means we can now use a tool called PsExec to connect and get command execution on the box. So PsExec, what's the options for this again? Let's check. It wants it's another Impacket script, so all the Impacket stuff like it in this sort of format over here. So home.local /SQL user, and then colon password of password 1, and at 192.168.1.52. Password was invalid. What are we doing wrong? Home.local 192.152 password 1. Oh, I typed password wrong. 2 S's in password. And we see over here, it's trying to get a session. And I'm just going to spoil it for you, it is going to fail, and that's because PsExec raises a lot of flags with Defender, so it doesn't work, it automatically blocks it, detects it as malicious, doesn't allow for that. But what we can use is another tool, also from Impacket, called WMIExec, and if we try that, after just a second, we now have command execution, to Windows dir, and we can see who am I, and we are the SQL user. So it is quite interesting that PsExec fails, but WMIExec does work. And if we want to just poke around, we can go into CD users, CD SQL user, and dash desktop, and then let's dir here. Oh, and we see there's a flag, so let's try to read that flag. So if this was a hacked box, you get the flag now, able to input it in, and we get the flag of AD is fun, exclamation mark. So this is how you get the execution, but what if you wanted to do PowerShell execution? Because in PowerShell you can do a lot more things like edit registries, all that fun stuff. So if we type PowerShell, it hangs, it doesn't work. And that's again because it's being blocked by Defender for some reason. But if you do look at the help options over here, you go to options, over here, shell type, and you can choose between CMD or PowerShell. So if we try that quickly, if we do shell-type PowerShell, we actually do get a PowerShell shell. So that's just something that I found out from just poking around, which is quite useful if you want to do things in PowerShell, edit registries, look at SAM databases. You could dump SAM databases. Let me show you a few more things that you can do just quickly. Now that we have PsExec, we can go over here, you can dump the SAM. So this is showing all the passwords of the people on the box. So this is the administrator, this is his hash, the guest account, that's just nothing, default account. And we can just load apart users. And this will show all the users, so we have that, and SAM has all these accounts we found before. Kerb, this is a default account for Kerberoast, and there's a few tickets, there's a few tricks with this. If you're able to gain access to that account, you can do golden ticket attacks, which are very fun. Maybe we'll cover that in another video. But yeah, once you have command execution, you can do pretty much anything you want, and that's the box. So any questions, let me know in the comments, and more videos to come.